Born for this, born to write, born to speak up, born to fight, born to dream in the dead of night. The gifted bipolar writer, shining so bright. Never in control, but in control of fate. Learning to navigate through love and hate. Rising above with every twist and turn. Embracing the fire as we watch it burn. Embracing the chaos, finding the light, breaking the chains, taking flight, riding the waves with all our might, writing our story in black and white. Never in control, but in control of fate. Learning to navigate through love and hate. Rising above with every twist and turn. Embracing the fire as we watch it burn. Through the highs and lows, we find our way. In the darkest moments, we still find day. The pen in our hand, the power we hold, the story unfolds as we break the mold. Never in control, but in control of fate. Learning to navigate through love and hate. Rising above with every twist and turn. Embracing the fire as we watch it burn. Through the highs and lows, we find our way. In the darkest moments, we still find day. The pen in our hand, the power we hold, the story unfolds as we break the mold.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nick Never in Control. I am your host, Nick, and I thank everyone for tuning in tonight. It's a Saturday night, and 8 p.m. Eastern. I want to say lots of people are out there doing lots of different things. I'm sure it's a big date night. God bless my husband for saying it's okay. You could go have your date night with all your friends. So welcome to Friends Old and New. This show has grown steadily over the last, I think we're going into 3 years now. Executive remote producer would be up shortly, and he can confirm that. We just simply would not be here if all of you did not show up on a Saturday night. And I want to thank you for your patience. There have been times that the show has not aired as regularly as it's meant to. And I put a comment in a short while ago. And it said, let's lead with love and grace for each other. We are living in some tough times. I want to say every generation would say that they passed through their tough times. But more than ever right now, we need to stand next to each other, despite the differences. This is about leaving a world tomorrow for our children and one that they can flourish in. So please throw into the comments what's been going on with you guys over the last couple of weeks. I would love to see. I try to make my circuit and stay abreast of everything. But, when you come here, you are very much celebrated. All the wins that are happening, you are also here to be supported. We all have those tough days. And oh my goodness, this past week did I have a few. But I'm here and it's easy to show up because I know you guys are here waiting. And that means a great deal. So tonight we are going to be discussing living a life of service after serving. And serving, in this case, being in the military. I have had the pleasure of really establishing some wonderful friendships with veterans over these last few years that I have been so active on LinkedIn. When I decided to do this particular topic, I started jotting down the names of everyone. And I'm like, wow, I need to do like a whole season on just veterans. Um, I it made me stop and think for a minute just how many people have sacrificed so much that we can be here tonight with each other in this capacity, right? Um, and as we go about our lives, how many out there are unable to go about theirs. And I hope that after this episode, that if you know a veteran or you know someone that knows a veteran, that you reach out just for a couple minutes. You know what? You're on my mind. And I just looked at this show and I wanted to let you know that your sacrifice, it doesn't go unseen. So with that, we are going to dive right in. I see lots of comments popping up, and I just want to say thank you again. A little later on in the show, I will take a moment to acknowledge and read some of the comments. But as always, I want to be able to bring as much value as I can bring to you within this hour. So with that, I'm going to ask my executive remote producer, my big brother, my bestie, Aaron Gibson, to please bring our guests up on stage. Yes, hi, and that would be you too, Aaron. For a minute, I'm like, is he just gonna leave himself back there?
Guess
Oh my
first.
goodness.
Guess first.
Guys and gal, welcome to Nick Never in Control. I know this must be like a weird name for a show, but I picked that name because I feel there's so much in life we are not in control of, right? And we can drive ourselves crazy trying to take control of everything. And so sometimes you just have to be able to say, you know, whatever, whatever. It's gonna happen. It's gonna roll through. Um, and while I'm busy trying to hold on to control, maybe I'm just gonna let it happen, sit back and decide how I'm going to handle this rather than react. Um, so thank you again for taking a time out on this Saturday night to be here with myself and all these amazing people that are here in the audience. All right, so we are going to dive right in. And of course, I have to go ladies first. So Georgia and I met actually not that long ago. And we have not only established a friendship, I actually connected her to Dr. Steve not that long ago because they're both veterans. And it's just delightful for me to see how you can connect people and they can take things in a different direction. And that's exactly what the two of them have done. And I'm sure they will share a little bit about that later on in the show. So Georgia um, is an ambassador for Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. She is retired Air Force. Okay, so she's badass. Yes, it's my show. I could say that if I want. Um, she is the founder of Elysian Dream and the Identity Gap Method, which I do want to a little later to explain what that is to us. So I am going to now introduce you to Dr. Steve Hudgins. Dr. Hudgins, you guys may have seen him around the circuit. Uh, he is a brilliant licensed therapist, and I have had the pleasure of working with him in a professional sense, publishing a recent book by him, Piece by Piece, My Blended Experience of a Mosaic Family. Dr. Hudgins is also a podcaster, and that's a bit about what they're going to share later. He's also a multiple time best-selling author. I apologize, and the founder of the Mosaic Family Institute. So last but not least, and I don't feel that he needs any introduction, but we shall introduce him anyway. Hey, I know that book. I know that book. Wonderful. You can see Aaron's been doing this a while because he points in the right direction. Whatever. He points in the right direction. I never get it right. Okay, so Aaron is many things.
Odd.
But is also the most beloved host of Soul Man Live. Soul Man Live is a late night mental health talk show and has come to be this space where we all go hang out on a Friday night and just connect, kind of let loose, connect again, regroup, and reset for the weekend. And he also, if you didn't know, is a Canadian Army veteran. So as my executive remote producer and Brick Brother, it was like, he's got to be on stage tonight with us. All right, so we're going to go round robin. Georgia, please share a little bit about yourself with us, and then we'll move on to Dr. Steve, and we'll move on to Aaron.
So first of all, Nick, thank you so much for inviting me to this panel tonight. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So I am Georgia Lee Arts. I am a 24-year retired veteran. I've worked in cross-industry places. I've worked in active duty Air Force, Air National Guard, civil service, and also the private sector working for a clinic as well. And I founded a company in 2022 called Elysian Dream.
Oh, I thought I was on mute there. I apologize. I'm not.
Okay,
thank you so much for that very brief introduction. I want to say there is so much more, but all of that is definitely going to, evolve as we get into the conversation. So thank you, Georgia, for that.
I think I wasn't sure how long it should be, and I was waiting maybe for the questions.
Oh my goodness, you're two adorbs. So we just kind of, we take it as it comes. It's a very open conversation. But thank you very much for being thoughtful about, us making sure we get all the questions in. So Dr. Steve, before I move on to you, I do want to say that I saw a comment out there by a LinkedIn user. I apologize that I'm not sure who you are. Oh, beautiful. You see, that's my executive remote producer. And I am going to say this, and I'm going to say it right here. Supporting a veteran is not charity. I don't care who you are supporting and in what capacity you're supporting someone. It is never about charity. Okay, you support someone because you see them as your equal, as your fellow human brother or sister standing next to you and needing some help at that moment. You don't know tomorrow if it's going to be you, and you are not going to want to be looked at like you're a charity case. I certainly wouldn't want to be. I certainly will not put somebody in that situation. So thank you very much for that comment. Dr. Steve, hello.
Howdy.
So tell us a little bit about you. Although I dare say I know a lot about you, but
I know. It's like jack of all trades, master of none, probably. Just being a military veteran of the Army for 8 years, 4 years active, 4 years reserves, uh, and then being a military brat. I think Georgia knows that term as well because as a military brat, we've grown up in the military as well. And so now I left the military, was a telecommunications engineer, and then switched over to doing private practice therapy.
Wow. So we're going to talk a little bit later about that as well, because that's certainly a pivot in a career. I didn't ask, Georgia, you served in Air Force. At what time did you serve, or how much time were you in the Air Force?
So we're really dating me tonight. So I went through college, graduated in 87, and I was so bored. I was too young to be working in an office. It was boring. And I had other interests. And so in 1991, after I couldn't get picked up to fly with Delta Airlines, I wanted to fly and travel. I got picked up with the Air Force. So I joined in 1991 and I retired in 2015.
Very, very interesting. And my very good friend out there, Leslie Flowers, she flew troops in and out of Vietnam. And when I stopped to think that there are so many others who didn't wear the uniform, right? But they were also in service of. And so I want to thank everyone else out there who also may not have done the uniform, but like Dr. Steve would say, answered to the bugle call. All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Gibson. Yeah, that would be you. That would be you. So
what did I do now?
I don't know. What did you do? Do you even want to tell us what you did?
No.
All right.
I'm making sure comments pop up.
Okay.
And paying attention to what you guys are doing.
You are a guest tonight. We can worry about the comments later. You are a guest tonight. So, Canadian veteran.
Yes.
And I specifically thought that I wanted to bring a veteran from another country as well. So when you serve your country and you sign up to protect lives, it really doesn't matter which side of the board you're on, right? Because you have signed up for something very sacred, and that is to lay your life down to protect other lives. And I don't know if there are any differences, but we will get into that later on for sure. But I want to thank you for being the octopus that you are and still executive remote producing the show tonight while we get into all of this. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into the questions.
Okay, go for it.
If there are any questions out there in the audience, please put them up, okay? I might be the one getting to do the interview, but your questions are important because there may be information that Nick spits out there that you're like, what the hell is she talking about? And you're okay to say that to me. And I'm sure that the panel up here will also tell me the same thing. I'm quite okay with that too. All right, so we're going to start with Georgia.
Okay.
Thank you. So Georgia, I know that part of what you do is career coaching, but you not only career coach military personnel that are transitioning out of the military and into careers, you also coach coaches that support military personnel. And I'm sure that as with anything else, sometimes lived experience can really lend to the not necessarily theoretical, but the studied part of the work, right? So I want us to talk a little bit about that, but also I was doing a bit of research, and I don't want to accredit where it is I picked up the research because this is Nick doing research, people. Okay, let's just start there. So incidentally, there was almost like a suggestion that some of the most suitable careers that veterans would go into based on the experience they have would be law enforcement or healthcare. Yet, further research almost showed me that typically veterans go into a space of administration, support services, manufacturing, retail. What were your findings in terms of, the clients that you service? Would you say they tend to go into more of the suggested or not suggested? Is there a reason why you think one or the other?
I think some of the top fields that veterans are qualified for would definitely be leadership. And even if a private sector employer doesn't understand anything else on your resume, there's one thing that they typically get, and that is leadership. So there's other fields too, like education. It could be project management is a really big field for veterans to go into, and fields of service. And a lot of veterans want to go into the field of coaching and to bring in, there's so much harm done in coaching. There's a lot of research out there, and I'm a coach who has been very harmed by other coaches in the field. And I decided I think there's I want to say desperate need to bring standardization, to bring ethics, and to bring evidence-based tools into coaching. So people not just bring the lived experience, but they have a whole toolbox to go along with it. So I'm bringing like 30 plus years of my own experience, but a background. I'm a former psychology social work major. I used to work in a clinic. I'm bringing a ton of research into what I do because it's hard at times for some people to transition. And I think it's critical that we do it competently and ethically. So that is one of the pivots and shifts that I've made.
I find that very interesting about your work because I have seen other coaches that assist veterans with transitioning, right? But it can be surface level meaning let's just, we're going to move you from here and here's 3 possible places that you could go. But there's so much more behind, not just the experiences, but some of the diagnoses that veterans live with. And even if they are capable of handling certain careers, are those careers suitable for them given the whole? So I love the idea of you bringing the part about ethics into it.
Yeah.
As it is, I wish I could say there was no employment discrimination, but there is. So, when you also bring that into the mix, that adds a whole different perspective there. So thank you so much for sharing.
Well, when I came into the business world, I think I had no idea what I was walking into, and I had to step back and do the research and just find answers. And one of the things I found is that a lot of coaches, it's performative, it is surface level, and there can be a lot of harm done. And there's a lot of research out there about the whole topic. And a lot of coaches have unhealed childhood wounds, and they're projecting those onto the people that they're trying to serve. They're trying to heal their own lives. It can be they're chasing external validation. They can be suffering imposter syndrome. There's a myriad of things. And one of the things I don't think I ever anticipated. So a lot of what I created came from years of helping people on a developmental level, but it also came in my own transition struggles. But I don't think coming into the business world, I don't think that everything I created would attract people maybe on the opposite side of identity with wounds that are so deep that they cause a lot of harm to other people. And it's not about discrimination. It's about creating safety in the coaching field where there's a lack of it. And there are coaches out there who they don't have the degree of empathy. It's performative empathy. And these are the people that are going to go to a counselor, and they're going to probably gaslight their counselor. They're just looking for validation. And it's not about, and coaches too, we don't treat conditions, and trauma comes up a lot, specifically in transitioning veterans.
Mhm.
And while there's things I can help with, I am not a therapist, and you can cause a lot of harm to someone.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I don't treat trauma. And if I have a client and I realize I think they're suffering from trauma, I'm going to give them a referral and maybe ask if I can speak with the person who's helping them, just to let them know what I've helped this person with so far, because I think we have to have a really high degree of ethics.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that extra because you are taking it a step back, right? So, I mean, I'm a publisher, so I'm going to use an analogy here. It's like someone coming to me and saying, I have an idea and I want to publish a book. Well, there's something that happens between the idea and wanting to publish the book. And I am not a story developer within the role that I have as a publisher. So there is a step that needs to happen before. And I like that you think in order for me to best help this person with my services, they need additional services, right?
Mhm.
And that you're willing to say, okay, let's get you where you need to be, and then we can take it from there. And it's interesting because now the next person on stage is a licensed therapist. So that was like the perfect segue in here. Um, uh, Perfect segue in. In the comments, I would love for you guys to share, any veterans out there, what challenges are you facing right now with employment? Are you employed? Are you unemployed? Um, are there any questions that you have for Georgia that Georgia might be able to answer for you while she's here? Dr. Steve, you're it. Tag.
To piggyback off of Georgia real quick, I don't think we grasp the mentality what veterans go through. Okay. Meaning that we're trained to endure pain, but not to describe it.
Mm.
One of my friends was a military, he's a Marine, worked on helicopters. And one of the things that he went through was he told a captain, don't take the helicopter. The captain did and killed all 6 on board. And he
Wow.
feels like he didn't do enough to stop. But as we're trained to push forward and not process in the moment. So we're not only getting physical pain, but emotional pain. And, sometimes when I talk to veterans, many don't know how to describe it or minimize their pain because they don't want to seem weak.
It's interesting because you do wonder if it takes a certain programming, if you will, of your mindset to numb yourself to certain things. I could only imagine, the other day, my husband and I were looking at, goodness gracious, was it Hacksaw Ridge? I think that was the movie. And it was, I know that the movie was made very realistic, but I have to tell you, like, I can't even imagine the nightmares for the things that you see and how it is that you actually do indeed need to be able to almost put blinders on in order to carry out your duties. And now you're like a pressure cooker. Now you're no longer in the field and you have all these things that are like, just in there. And what do you do? Because now if you do explode, the general public is thinking, well, this person's crazy. They need to be locked up, right? But not really understanding, or perhaps not taking the time to understand where this is all coming from. I mean, so, I want to ask you, I had a question written down here. I have terrible handwriting, so I apologize. Sometimes I can't read back my own handwriting. Okay, so my question to you is this. I know that PTSD and depression are two of the top mental health issues facing veterans. But yet, what I found very strange in my research was that that is one of the most difficult claims to get approved for disability,
Mm.
which to me is mind boggling because there seems to be so much evidence out there that people in military suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. So, like, when I think about that, I'm like, that just doesn't add up to me. Could you shed some light on that as a licensed therapist?
Yeah, there are several factors that go into play with this, and it's a conglomerate of mixing pot, if you will. It's like a hobo stew. You throw a little bit of this and throw a little bit of that, and you call it stew. But for the military, you got to remember too that it's also a cultural conditioning and stigma in military life. Suck it up, never show weakness. You're fine. Others have it worse. And so sometimes that mindset can come in and it's like they downplay the symptoms. Well, somebody got their legs blown off and yet I don't have any limbs missing, but yet don't look at the impact that PTSD can have on them. Number two is when you think about our exit strategy, is what we call it. When we leave the military, we go through a segment of a week of certain things we have to do to get our document cleared. And oftentimes it's so fast that it becomes an inadequate screening and separation, that a lot of these people who do the screenings are not equipped. When it's called a transition assistance program called TAP. Anybody that gets separated from the United States military, a lot of this, it's reliance on self-reporting, which means the veteran sometimes can minimize the stuff, especially when it comes to mental health, because what happens is that they may minimize it or they may not forget. But also with PTSD, you got to look at there's an onset, there's a delayed onset. So PTSD can surface months or even years later, especially after leaving a structured military. There might be some kind of trigger that went off or stimulation, and all of a sudden they hit this PTSD. And oftentimes, when you're experiencing civilian stressors, that can do it. But I think for many veterans, they mask their symptoms,
Mhm.
and we misunderstand it as functional success, so to speak.
That's interesting because also what you shared made me also think about Georgia because of what Georgia works on. And I was going to ask if there is, in fact, an exit strategy, and one that included some sort of psychological evaluation that would be in a person's file, right? And then would something like that cross Georgia's hands in the fact that Georgia is trying to help people transition? But what you're saying does make it's sad, but it makes sense, right? It's a conditioning, and also that it's almost like with my bipolarness. I go in for an interview. Do I or do I not want to disclose that, right? Um, so I could certainly see that being the case, but I really hope that there is a way for military to maintain their dignity and the respect that they deserve and still be able to be vulnerable and not be looked at as weak and not necessarily post serving, right? Perhaps while serving, it could be beneficial. What do
Well,
you think to that?
to add to that, Nick, is one final factor. I saw some comments popping up, and just
Yeah.
like my friend, the Marine Corps, he didn't observe any wartime. He was supporting the Gulf War, but at the same time, he didn't experience the events to himself. The PTS guilt factor came in because I told a captain he ignored it. I could have done more because the Marine
Mhm.
Corps is taught to do more, right? But The real issue is when you come out, you can get out of the TAP assistance, you get into the civilian world, and oftentimes to file a claim, a VA claim, so that we can justify this, is that the problem is that records can be incomplete. And in my friend's case, they conveniently lost his Marine record medical file, which some of them do. They have to go file a nexus letter. In other words, they got to find people who served with him to verify, yes, this information's accurate. And so it becomes very difficult because sometimes the trauma is not even, it goes unreported or not documented in their military form or in their medical. And so trying to get mental help on the outside going through the VA system, unfortunately, the burden of proof is on the veteran.
Wow. I mean, this conversation is blowing my mind because when I think about, I can only draw this into my personal experiences, right? So when I think of being bipolar and where I've been sometimes, I couldn't, I was not in a position to help myself. Where was I going to scrape myself off the bed to go and find myself a psychiatrist? So now you need help, but you're not even in a position to be able to start, paperwork. Who's even thinking about paperwork when they're in that state of mind? These are whole other conversations that we could have. I want to thank you so much for what you shared. And Leslie did throw up that comment because I mentioned Leslie did, in fact, fly soldiers back and forth in Vietnam. And there was an attack on the ground during one of those trips. And the air hostesses and such were grabbed and put into the bunker. She shared this in her legacy book last year. So yes, I can see how by extension you can be affected because these are traumatic moments in your life too. You're not on the field in the middle of battle, but you are touched by the ripples of everything that is happening. So thank you for answering that question. I did see it and I did want to bring it up, so I appreciate it.
I would like to add something to this. So even if you get all the documentation right and you get into the VA system, we have to realize that they have a lot of people coming through the doors at any given time, and they're probably short on help, short on appointments. And so you have a lot of systemic limitations. But what I also see from a training management point of view is they're trained to look for people who are maybe trying to file a false claim. And even if you're a rated veteran, and I can tell you this from experience, when you go to appointment, to be treated like somebody who is just trying to steal something and get something can be very, I can tell you in some of the treatment that I received, I'm a veteran who walked away from the VA. So many things happened that I probably would count as abusive. And I don't want any amount of money. I don't allow it into my life. It's like you have this carrot. You're chasing after this carrot. And it's part of the reason I walked away and gave up as a Gulf War veteran dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome, rated for that. The way I got treated was so unacceptable. And I get it. Veterans want to push you to chase all the benefits and you've earned them. But there's also just living a life of peace without, just some of the medical care I've seen. I chose to walk away. I don't want any amount of money. What I want is that peace in my life. And there are people who file a false claim. I get it, but they're trained to pretty much treat everybody like they've stolen something.
That's every facet of life. That there are always those that would take advantage. There are always those that feel that they have to raise the criteria to be met. I think that it is heartbreaking that people out there that really, really need the help can't get the help. And quite frankly, I wonder if this is not an area where we as the public can, in fact, step up and support. Maybe more volunteers are needed to help process some of the administrative work, some of the work that perhaps requires less um, necessity for education and detail, right? But just the basic paperwork processing. So thank you so much for sharing that with us as well. Aaron, you're in the hot seat. You're up next.
Shoot.
You don't get off easy because you're my big brother. Audience, again, thank you so much. I know it's a deep conversation for a Saturday night. Thank you for all the comments that we are seeing. You know, it really shows us there is a lot of support out there. And we need to take action. And hopefully after this conversation tonight, feel free to reach out to any of these people up here. I am volunteering it if you have questions, because I know that they are ready and willing to answer. So I'm taking Aaron in a tough direction, but we have like definitely danced the dance many times. So he's used to this. When you started Soul Man Live, a late night mental health talk show,
Yes.
I don't know that the audience was necessarily ready for where you were going. And there have always been trigger warnings, if you will. You've had several veterans on your show. And how do you, as a veteran, almost balance out the fact that if they start rehashing, it could possibly be a trigger? But at the same time, it also is healing, right? And that fine line of what they are bringing is healing to them, but also educating the audience. Like, have you ever felt like, I'm not sure, you know, like this direction? Because at the end of the day, I feel like you have always, first and foremost, put your guest first. Like everybody knows Aaron is like, you know, when he has a guest, that guest is the queen or the king for the night. And it's not easy to do those types of shows, right? So share a little bit about that with me. And also, if there are veterans out there that would like to come on your show and be a guest, you know.
Well, you know, I have an open door policy for veterans.
I do know that. That's why you're here.
And of course, that's always how I will roll. And I am one of those veterans that has gone through the coaching, and I have done the therapy, and I've been able to turn things around. I live with PTSD, and associated things that come along with that is, of course, anxiety, hypervigilance, insomnia, depression. The list can go on. For many, it just depends on the person, and it's a matter of what Dr. Steve was talking about earlier, which is a lot of us were conditioned to run into battle where others are meant to run away. Your normal instinct is for everybody to run away, and we're trained to run into that, and we get worked into that mentality in a lightened fashion. And when we get out, we have been not so much, it's not, I want to use the word lightly, is conditioned. We've been prepared for worst case scenario now. And when you come out of the military, you've worked for a finely well-oiled machine with little defects here and there, but for the most part, we work as a mission to achieve our goal. So I don't know where the differences lie. I know that Canada and the U.S. has shared an alliance for many, many a moon, and I have served with U.S. soldiers as well. The big thing is, like Dr. Steve has said, is recognition. We come out, we're so conditioned, we're ready. Like when I got out of the military, I got right into HVAC. And fast forwarding from that HVAC was, I got out, I seen everybody else. I seen 8 guys there, and I was the only guy working. And I'm like, how is this efficient? And then starting to look at the frustrations of that and not vocalizing them and not speaking up, because again, soldiers are to follow directives. We're not supposed to be barking up. You know, it's one thing to shoot the proverbial shit with your fellow troops, but you don't talk to your sergeant major like that. You don't talk to your commanding officer like that. You are a soldier. You are a machine, and you focus like a machine. And so coming out, that's where kind of the whole kind of core fundamental for Soul Man Live was derived from. Was this was based off of my own journey, going through the military, going through the adversities that I did, recognizing how difficult it was to reach out to coaching, how to find that right coach, how to work. And I mean, I was terrified, work with medications to help get me back to a more manageable point where I could start to break unhealthy patterns that I had put into my mind that no longer served a purpose, and to restructure my mind to start working on, okay, this is a lot about mindset, and this is about focusing about, yes, I recognize that these are really bad things. Now, this is my case only. There is a lot of other veterans out there with a lot of more severe scenarios. I have seen live combat. I have seen soldiers take, well, I've not seen them personally take their lives, but been in the building with soldiers that have taken their life from the stresses of not being able to realize that they could communicate. And also that culture of where when you are a machine, you are not to have any feeling, and recognizing that, you know what, I don't feel well on the inside. How do I communicate that to the next person without feeling, as Dr. Steve said, weak, vulnerable? I was bred to be a knight in armor. Now you're asking me to just, shed down to my skivvies and just stand before you. Oh, take me on. It's not an easy journey. And that's where, again, I'm the patient that has worked through that kind of stuff that they're both talking about.
I'm so damn grateful that this panel came on from these, shared experiences, yet so very different paths post-military, right? That all do lead back to service. And this is what a life of service looks like after serving. You are serving in different capacities. And, I mentioned before about how you can help to be taught that it's okay to express without being weak. And that makes me think of what Georgia said, that post-military makes great leaders. But in your particular situation, Aaron, as you said, due to conditioning, you didn't want to speak up. And when I think military, I stop and I think to myself, oh, yes, great, you have a sergeant. But at the end of the day, if you are the lone man left standing on the battlefield, you're leading yourself. All right? So at any given moment, you are leading yourself. You have to decide to get up and move, right? Because you moving or not moving, somebody else's life depends on it. So if that isn't leadership, and I think that definitely is an incredible role for ex-military to fill leadership in all industries. Because you know what? It starts with a mindset. It really does. And that mindset of let's get it done. But this is where people like yourself, with what you're doing, Aaron, building that awareness, giving that safe space to speak, that platform, what Georgia is doing by helping people to transition or understand what other steps that they need to take in order to transition. And then Dr. Steve, with what he's doing with his therapy work, all of these things combined can help bring our veterans into the space that they deserve to be. Because they deserve that respect, they deserve that care, they deserve the support. Who more deserves it? And yes, I will go to bat to fight for who more deserves it. As much as I speak about equality, I will. Because these people's lives are torn apart in ways that we will never see. Right? I remember when I first met Aaron and we would do his shows, he would always joke with everyone, I have shifty eyes. His shifty eyes have gotten much better, right? Because he has created a safe space where he too feels safe. But that's this hypervigilance in action. So just, my God, what an incredible conversation. I can't even get to the second round of questions because we have 10 minutes left, right? Just such great comments out there. And please, if there is a comment that you saw out there that you would like to specifically address, by all means, just blurt it out. Aaron's awesome at finding comments. Um, but in that sense, we're going to come full circle and do a little bit of a wrap up. And anything that you can offer in terms of a resource out there that you know of that you'd like to share, anything that you would like to share um, as encouragement.
So I wrote a book, and it's about transitioning, and it's so I didn't follow a specific book format. I had to go on my creative intention when I wrote this. So I started out writing it a little bit about my inroad and my why, and I forgot the trigger warning, but we're tough, right? We're tough. But I write about different things that veterans and people in transition can do, because I don't just work with veterans. So they can get a copy of my book, but not everything I coach is in there. And protecting veterans in transition and people in transition is my mission. Specifically, and I didn't add this before, but in reaching out to more than one, we'll just say several transition or business services, we don't always have a high degree of ethics, and people try to take over what the veteran is creating and going out there to get it for themselves. And I've realized there's so much harm in the world of a transition, and that's a huge part of why I've shifted in who I serve, and that's why I want to bring that standard to coaching, because our veterans who are in transition, they're already, some of them, in very vulnerable states.
Yeah.
What we don't need is the reharm. And that's why I do what I do. And I want to say thank you so much for letting me talk about that.
Absolutely. I thank you for the work that you're doing. Please make sure you drop the link for your book in the comments of the show.
Okay.
And at some point, I'm going to have Georgia come on to the Person Behind the Pen series and do an excerpt reading from her book. So you certainly will have an opportunity there to learn a bit more about the book as well. So Georgia, thank you so much again for your time tonight. It is greatly appreciated. And on behalf of myself and everyone here tonight, we do thank you with all of our heart for your service.
Hey, Nick, I'd like to chime in if you don't mind.
Yep, it's your turn.
Hey, no, I was just going to say that I'm part of an organization that is creating a national, international group for veterans. And what it is built upon churches establishing veteran supports within their community of a church. So if your church is interested in supporting veterans, reach out to me, either Facebook, LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, drsteveh.com, and message me there. That would be the best. But if you're interested in trying to put church support within the community, here's what's happening though, really quick, is that us veterans are not aware of resources in the community because it's not broadcasted. Oftentimes it's either word by mouth or somebody's experienced something here or there. So even if you are a non-for-profit agency that's helping for veterans, you've got to do something of a flyer or something. So what we're trying to also do is put like a 411 together. This is a long time coming to help veterans in their state. And finally, it's almost like, hey, it's a Debbie Downer in how we talk about VA and support, but I do want to do kudos here. Okay. The VA has really tremendously helped me with the processing of my cancer. It's eradicated, it's gone. I went from a 34% chance to, living unless you kill me or I get hit by a bus. I got a long time coming, which I hope, right? So that's one of the things that I think that as veterans is that, there are some good VAs that are there, but as veterans, we have to advocate for our care. So thank you, Nick, for that opportunity to have a plug in for the positive.
Absolutely. Thank you for plugging in the positive, because there are always both sides. And As human beings, it's really easy to always look at the negative side, right? So now here is something that we all can help to work together and strive toward getting that type of care for everyone, right? It may not happen in our lifetime, but God alone knows that whatever we do within our lifetime will be felt generations from now. So I thank you, as I thank Georgia on behalf of myself and everyone here tonight, for what you're doing with your work now and for what you have given up for all of us to be able to be here and to have this conversation tonight. So thank you so much. Oh, make sure you also drop in the comments, please, um, that if anyone would like to maybe understand the process a bit more of how they can get all of their community VA projects going on in sync with their church communities, please make sure you share your contact information in there as well. Maybe
I'm trying to leave a message in chat, but it's not letting me in.
No problem. I will make sure that I get with you guys an hour DM for the show, gather information, and when I repost this event, I will hit the couple of resources that you guys mentioned and share that information in there. Okay, so that everybody has it. All right, great. Aaron, it's all you. We got 3 minutes, and the executive remote producer is going to hit end stream in 2 minutes and 59 seconds. So, actually,
We got an outro still, though, yet. I said we still have an outro. My parting words are this.
Yes.
Is that veterans in Canada reach out to your doctor, your family doctor, and ask to get a referral to speak with Veterans Affairs and go through the qualification process. You are going to go and you are going to work through some exams, and you are going to end up seeing a psychologist, and you will end up getting into the therapy. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You are not going to want to be there while you're talking about your hardest moments, but you can turn things around and you can reclaim your happiness. And I'm not a man to brag or be humble, or to go beyond my words, but I am a result of that process. I survived that process, and I know a lot of people did not. So please take that vulnerability. You will forge new armor going forward. And if you are struggling right now with mental adversity in Canada and the US, please call 988. And if you are in the UK, call 999.
Beautiful, beautiful. And to the episode tonight, I thank you so much for that. And yes, I am also thanking you for your service, sir, for the work that you do and for all that you have sacrificed to ensure everyone's safety. My last minute, I have to spend thanking everyone that was here tonight. There are some incredible comments. I am going to go back and answer all of them. I don't care if it takes me 24 hours and gazillion cups of coffee, because your presence here means everything. Meryl, I would like to give you a huge thank you, because you said you shared the event with a lot of veterans here on LinkedIn that are also in active duty. And, we sometimes don't have the platform to be able to offer that thanks and show our support in a vast sense. This is an hour-long episode. So this is where we can, in fact, share and reach out to one another. We need to lead with love and grace for each other, because we are stronger together. So with that, we are going to call it a wrap. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you to my beautiful panel. I'm going to hit you up and harass you after the show anyway. So thank you, everyone. And go out there and take back control by letting go of it. Good night.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
and you feel you are standing at hell's gate. Look back and you will see there is someone waiting for you, he, she, or me. Free your mind and open your heart, loosen control and embrace who you are. Set your soul free to dream. These brambles and thorns that impede the path to our greatest selves are but the test to our willingness and strength to find our greatest wealth. Free your mind and open your heart, loosen control. To dream, come dream with me. Come dream with me. Come dream.